So in Codeforce approach, the main intention is that so we'll be writing all model classes first, right? All the model classes required. We'll actually declare all the model classes with all the required properties in the model classes, right? And we'll define their relations. If there are any relations between each model class, right? We'll define the relations and we'll be defining the context. So we'll be defining all the code part in this approach, and then we don't have to create a database for this because we just have to mention the connection string, what database name we are looking for, right? And then when we actually run the program, it automatically creates the database and all the schemas required. Right? So let's see how we can actually achieve that. So let me create a new project here. So let me make it as a setup project. Right. So here let's create a first class now. So when I say model, we have to create model classes. It's a plain class which we'll be creating. Right. So let's make sure that the class names, whatever table names we are looking for, are the class names. Right. So let's go back to the database and see what exactly we can do. So we already have college, department, office, and school and all, right? So let's create something like let's say we have library, right? This is one of my model projects here, right? So let's make it public class. So here just I have an ID. Let's say okay, so I'm defining the properties of library. So let's say the use case is library will have multiple books, let's say, right? And we're defining library ID, and multiple libraries can have multiple books. Say public, let's say string name. Name is a library name. Right? And then public, so let's say location. And then let's say we have this one, and let's create one more class. For this books. Where I'm in public class books. So here let's say public. And so this will have its own ID. Each and every book will have its own identity. Let's say public student. We have a name for the book. Let me call this book name. Right? And then let's say we have public stream. Let's say we call it as book type. Right? Something like which is novel or biography or something. Okay, and then so let's say we have this which is we have a public int defined here with ID, book name and group type, right? And then we have a library. Now let's create a relation between these two. Let's say in a library we can have multiple books, right? So we can define public. We have a list of list of books. So let's call it as books here. We have a multiple books in a library, and let's say all the books can have, let's say, right, whoever have an identity will be there in the library. So this is image to be available. So two simple model classes we created, right? Anyways, we are not using any entity library now, right? We just looking at, we have a library model class, right? A simple library model class where we have the properties, whatever we wanted, and the books object, and then we have a books model class where we have few properties and the library. Multiple books can be in one library, whereas in one library we can have multiple books. Right? So these are two model classes we have created now. Now connecting these two, let's create something called the context class. So let me create a new class here. Let me create it as library DB context. So this is going to be my context class. So for my context class to be, so now in this context class I have to mention my library and books model classes as two different DB sets, so that I can use them as a list of those which can actually be found for library books. So for that, you can see I have to integrate my DB context. Now you can see that I will not be able to do that part, right? Importing the DB context, because till now we haven't mentioned any reference to my project on entity libraries. Let's go to references here. Right click on that and say add reference. Now in this we have to go to browse, right? Because we already have different libraries we need, but what we need is we need the libraries which are related to entity, let's say. So here I want this entity, see, entity framework.sql server and entity framework. Now I have a reference. So now let's go ahead and say I want my DB context. So before that, let's say using the entity system dot data dot entity here. We have a DB context. Right. So as soon as we add them, right? So their name spaces are under your data, which comes as an entity, and we have added a DB context class, which we are inheriting in our library context. Now, why we are actually inheriting DB context? Because so this actually makes sure whenever we run a program, right, whatever model class sets we are going to create, right? So it will consider them as a DB schema objects, and it will take, right? So here now let's declare two different DB sets. Now you have one DB set for library, right? So let me call it as library as, now let's say libraries, right? It appends with the libraries and say get and your set. Same way you have public DB set of you have book, right? So let me call it as actually we have to call it as a single book. That's fine. I think I can call it as books here. Okay, and set. So we have declared two DB sets here for library and the books. Now if you remember, for DB context, right, it needs a default connection string named library DB context to current database. Right? So that's the next step which we have to see. So in your app.config you can see, now this is a general DB app.config which will be created as soon as you create a project. Right? But when you add an entity framework, right, then if you create more properties or HTML, your configuration attributes, because it needs to see the compatibility and all. But for now, you can see that I haven't added any entity or anything. I'm just using the libraries of entity framework and I'm coding. Right? But I have to mention the connections. How can I do that? Now here you have your configuration, right? So here you can see you have something called connection strings, right? So this connection string you can actually mention so in multiple connection strings you can have your add, right? You can say first name, so this name should be same as your DB context. That's what we are saying, right? And then you have your connection string. So here you can define the connection string. So here you can say your data source. So your data source, as you know that my data source is going to be this, right? So let me take it from here, or let me go to, so that we have to define the data source correctly. So from other configuration which we have already created, let me copy the data source here. This is important. Right? So this is my data source, and let's go to initial. So it's very important to have catalog. The spellings should be correct because we are going to take that. So let me copy the initial catalog too, which is initial catalog. Let's say it is library. Now this is something that it is going to create this table, right? Named library. Right, you have data source and you have your this, and let's say, so the integrated security, I want to give this. So this is your connection string. We are actually creating your connection string and making sure that the connection string is the name of connection string, like you created, is same as your context. You have defined your name and your connection string, and you have to define your provider. Right? So which provider do you take care? Here you have your system dot data dot SQL client provider, right? So you can directly take up this SQL client provider name and connect to this. Because now this provider is something which conveys that okay, the source whatever you're looking for is the SQL client. Right? So now our program is ready. We have created, all the model classes, created a DB context, we have connected all, and then we have created our action script. Now here you can see that even if you don't create a constructor, right? So normally whenever you create the entity, it can be blank or from model or from schema, right? We have so you see this constructor, right? This type of constructor with your base constructor being called, right? And here there was something called name is equal to so much, right? So you don't have to basically mention it. So if you don't mention, we have already discussed that if you don't mention anything, you can by default take a name of your class, right, as a connection string name, and it will consider that connection string to connect to database. That's what it is, right? So in this we have all the things ready, right? Now let's go to the program and see how to write this. Now in the program, what we do, we will try to add something in one of the database, right, and see what happens. So as of now, you can see I'll refresh my server so that you can see that there is no database called that video, right? So let's create that. So let me take the DB context one, which is my library DB context. Right? So here I want to add one library record. So I'll go to edit dot. So I'll actually make the name, right? Just say some value. Right, and I have a library dot. I have location. Just a some location here, and then we have dot. Let's say okay, you will have content location, right? So if you want, you can also go ahead and say public date, time, and created. We have this record and modules and so let's say link dot created databases. So we have this, and now let's add it to the DB context. DB context dot libraries dot add. Once you are done with adding, let's say the DB context dot save changes. So now we are actually going in the same way how we used to go, right? We used to create the complete entity data, and then we used to write a program. Now what we are doing, we are writing all the model classes, and then we are going there to define by giving, the way how we can actually add a record to my library. Right? So let's run this and see how it's working. So let's see console dot write line. Yeah, there is an exception. And let's say write console write line of exception. Considering this E, right, as an object of exception, right, which will be handled, and I'm actually printing it. So let's run this and see how it works. So initially I don't have a library database prepared now. So now let's say this is a startup project. Fine, let's do this. So just going to we can see operation successfully. Initially, you can see that it actually took some time, right? Because it was creating all the schemas, all the database and everything, right? Now it says operation successful. Let's go back here. Now let me refresh the databases. You can see your library got created. This is your database is created, and go to tables. Now you can see you have books, right? Where you can see your ID, book name, book type created data now, and also you can see libraries. Where you can see your ID, name, location, right? And you can see there is a relation we created, foreign key created, where, right? Because as we said, multiple books can have one library, right? So you can see there is a library ID created on this. Now if you go to the data part, right? You can see the first record, whatever we added, right? You can see that. And anyways, books we haven't added it now. Now you can see as your schema got created in database, right? Which is we have done a reverse engineering completely. We created a model, all the model classes, whatever you know, that, and then we moved back to database, creating database schema. We didn't even mention or we didn't even create it in database. But through the connection tree, our entity framework created everything for us. Right? And let's go ahead and create multiple things now. So let's start this operation. Right? So for one library, let's say I'm going to create let me create a simple framework here. Let's say I'm going to create some 5 libraries. So let me call library. Just to differentiate. So I use an index structure. Let me take it from 1 to 5. And let me create an internal one where I'm going to create let's say X here. X and let's see, it will automatically change all the references. And let's say I'm going to create some 5 books, right, for each library. Okay, so here I'm going to take books object. Start the book name. Let's say I'm just taking this as X, and we'll start type. Let me just call it as type, since just to differentiate. And then you have start make a deadline as deadline dot now. What else you have in those? We have ID type, anyways ID will be auto, fine. So you have this, and now we have a DB context dot books dot add author. And then wherever you are adding, let's say I want to see. You can actually do, after your loop, right, you can actually do one save changes. Or wherever you want, wherever you are actually creating this, you can do the save changes also. Let's try to save changes after this. DB context, save changes. right? Arithmetic problems. Now here what we're doing, we are actually adding up this and see how it looks. Let's start this. Operation successful. Come out of this. Let's go back here and refresh this. So you have some books created, right? Now these are the books created, where you can see the library ID is none because we have it referenced. But you can see here you have your reference. Right? Now here you can see that we have to make sure that library ID is reference receipt. Right? So for this we have to create our own foreign key. Because you can see that ID, whatever we have created, right, doesn't actually meet the actual right. Now, which means we have to create our own referencing foreign key so that I can actually update this. Now, so let's get back. Let's read our model. Now, first thing what we have to understand here is, let's say if there is any change in model, let's say if I create something like in books, let's say, right, I did some change in model. Let's say I wanted something called int office library ID as my foreign. I'm not defining any quality now, but I just wanted to add a column called library ID. There is a small change in my scheme, my model first, right? Which means it should be updated to scheme first, and then you should run this program. Let's see what happens if I run this. You can see you will get an error here. The model that in the new context, right, has changed since the database was created. Right? If you check the model, right, and if you cross check the schema, right. So for the first time, if your schema itself is, if your database itself is not present, right, it will actually start from the scratch. So it will start from the scratch and it will create a database and all the schemas for you. But now, if you already have a schema, then it won't update. So updating your schemas and database and everything, all the objects you have changed, right? So for that, even before starting everything, you have to do something. So you have your something. We have to import by using system.data.entity. Now under entity namespace we have something called database, right? So every time we normally start up with our program, make sure you are initializing your database. So let's say new, I'm gonna create, and we have an option here, you can see, drop the database always in change, or drop create database if model changes. I want to take this, right? And which database to change, or which context to change. I have my library context. This is my context which I want to change. Now this will make sure that your whatever schema you have changed, let's say library or anything, right, will be added up to database, right? And then it will make sure that it will create your, it will drop the database and it will create a fresh, and then it will make sure it is taken. That is what this line will do, right? Initializing your database, and which database you are actually giving your context, which context to it. Right? This is what it is. Now, before running this program, let's go back and let's visit this. Now what I want is here, we see something where how can I make this library as a foreign key? right? Now this is where we'll be using something called annotations. We can actually use annotations here, like you can see you get something called annotations. So before actually using annotations, you have to import some class. So import some namespace, which is using system dot you have a component model and data annotations for schema, right? So in this namespace, you have all the annotations. So what is annotation? Now annotation here, you can actually use them to define your own way of defining your schema names, right? Or your column names, or defining your foreign keys and all. Now let's say I want to see this one. Let's say I want the name of this model to be created as a table, right? I want to change this. So you can see you can actually create something for model. So do you have the references? You already have system.component model dot data annotation. You already have this. Let me just redo the solution. Now let me just first try this part. Here, this is how we actually define annotation, right? So we have a model class, right? So office details and you have IDs and all. Right? Now in here, if you want to give your own names, right, you can actually mention them. Like we have a column, right? Now it will actually the property will be the ID, but the schema column name will be office ID. Same way, when you define your table annotation for your model class, then your model class name will be the same, right? And your table name will be the name whatever you mentioned here. Same way, if you go to the foreign key, now you can see we declared a variable office details ID, and this is something which is other model anyways, right? Now I have an office object here. Now I'm mentioning that I want the foreign key to be created in this way, which is office details ID. Same way, actually, I am trying to mention over here to actually get this, but see, sometimes you may get this issue because you have to reinstall your magic package or revisit your addition that you do. Here you can actually add this in this way. You have created a variable which you want it to be a foreign key. And then for an object, you are saying that I want my object to be, I want this variable to be my foreign key to this, table I have. This is employees table and office details table where I mentioned my phone. Right. So this is how we normally define the annotations for our columns, for our foreign keys, for our tables. Right, using my component model data annotation scheme. Fine.